For 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'll start with Ms. Miller. In your testimony, you noted the government loses more than $500,000 to fraud every year. Given that astonishing amount, what can the federal government learn from the private sector? Because we know the private sector wouldn't put up with that, right?
Yeah, it's $500 billion,
Yeah.
and yeah, it is an astounding amount. What we can learn from the private sector is, and this I frequently say this when people ask me this question. A bank invests in fraud prevention technology because they know that they're going to save more money with that investment than they are going to spend on the tool. A private sector company would never spend money on something it wasn't going to have a better return on investment. But in the government, because fraud is deceptive and we don't see it, we don't invest in anything to try to stop it. And so it's this sort of happy sort of story that agency leaders can tell them, because if they don't go looking for fraud, they don't find it, and then they don't have to invest in technology to prevent it. And so then you have GAO coming out and saying, hey, we're actually losing $500 billion a year or more, I believe it's more, to fraud, and the agencies are not being held accountable.
I'll give you a kind of related question. Obviously, the answer is, we're going to build more technology and blah, blah, blah. We learned from DOGE a little bit about the work ethic of some of the federal employees. As we spend more money somewhere to stop this fraud, do you think it should better be spent on hiring new government employees, or maybe hiring out to somebody else who can try to detect this fraud?
Well, I wouldn't think, I don't think that government employees themselves have the tools to be able to find this fraud. So whether you hired more government employees or whether you contracted it out, I still think that there's such a lack of focus on it. I do think that concerted investment, whether that's in people or technology or both, it really is going to need both, will be needed if we really want to move the needle on this.
Okay. Do you feel, though, that the bulk of the work is going to have to be done by contracting out to somebody or other?
Well, I mean, I think generally speaking, the federal workforce doesn't have the skill sets that they need to be able to find fraud.
Okay.
And we should be skilling them up, or we should be contracting it out, yes.
Okay. What's preventing the federal government from implementing similar AI practices that they have in the private sector?
A willingness to pretend that it's not happening, because most agencies are more focused on getting money out the door. And that is the goal. Get the money out the door quickly and then take a victory lap because you spent the money, and not recognizing that there are people getting that money who are, foreign state actors and criminal rings. But again, because it's underground, because it's not seen, we don't talk about it. We talk about it in these hearings, but we rarely talk about it, and the public isn't aware.
Yeah. I guess part of the lesson should be the less the government does, the better, because they'll always screw it up. Right, that's one of the lessons should be. Now we'll go to Mr. Thierer. On the first day of office, President Trump rescinded Biden's executive order on AI. Could you describe some of the damaging aspects of President Biden's executive order?
Well, unfortunately, that executive order sought to do a lot of things that Congress should have been doing, Congressman, and really did not wait for Congress to take the lead on the questions of AI governance more broadly. Some of the best practices that were there for agencies to follow, and some of the things that were recommended in terms of AI officers, were fine. And Mr. President Trump has continued those practices in his executive order that replaced the Biden executive order. But I think, generally speaking, at a high level, I think the Biden administration's executive order was just very fear-based and treated AI as more like a curse to be avoided than an opportunity to be embraced.
Okay. In your testimony, you cited a study that stated utilizing AI systems would allow the federal government to unleash a productivity windfall for the U.S. government worth up to $532 billion annually. Not 531, not 533, 532. Can you describe what kind of productivity gains AI could unlock in the federal government, and where the big savings is going to come?
Yeah, they're really twofold. As that report was noting, there are very specific types of targeted reform and oversight efforts that AI can help with to improve, paperwork reduction, procedural issues, better administration of government. And then there's more broad-based productivity enhancements associated with AI itself and its use not only in the public but private sector that can ultimately benefit government administration.
Could you tell me which agencies you think would most benefit, or when you talk about, I don't know how you came up with 532, but Is there any big agency, grab 200 billion?
Yeah.
What are the big?
Yeah, well, a lot of federal agencies could benefit from more efficient operations. Obviously, Department of Defense is one of them. But right now, important things being done at state and DHS and others just to improve paperwork on things like immigration issues or paperwork issues, FOIA requests, and so on.
Thank you.